What's going on, guys? Cody from Motorcycle MD. Welcome back to part 2 of the nightmare diagnosis on this VT750. If you have not watched the first video of this two-part series, I suggest that you watch it so this all makes sense. My goal here was to bring you guys in on the diagnostic process of what I would typically do or go down when you're dealing with a problem that doesn't really seem to make sense. Like I said, we have a VT750 Shadow. It has some aftermarket parts on there. The intake's been changed, the exhaust has been changed. And it has a very odd problem at mid-range RPM. It seems to hesitate, fall on its face, or just kind of lose power throughout that range. Power right through it. It idles great, the throttle response is awesome, all the way up into mid-range. It's got all the power that it should have. But through discovery of certain things, like shown in that other video, not all diagnostic processes are the same. And I thought it'd be cool to show you guys that. I also want to thank everybody who took the time to comment in this video below. Your engagement was awesome, a lot of great ideas, and many of you guys are spot on. One of the cooler parts about this video is I'll be showing you how you guys were thinking, but then kind of flipping it on its end. And this is a process that I don't think too many people recognize in the moment when it comes to trying to figure out potentially an air and fuel mixture issue or a fuel starvation issue or something like that. Regardless of that, many of you were on the exact path that I would recommend or suggest to anyone else who may be dealing with this problem. So again, thank you. The amount of people who enjoyed the video was very encouraging for me to see. And if you enjoy videos like this, like the channel, subscribe. We do videos on diagnostic things like this all the time, or just helpful tips and tricks that you can use practically for your motorcycle. Being a motorcycle technician for Honda, I see a lot of things, and I'm passionate about sharing that information with you guys. So if you like that, this channel might be up your alley. And if you need help with your motorcycle, trying to solve a problem, add a modification or whatever, you need some help, there are tons of ways that Motorcycle MD has made itself available for you. In the description below, you can find out some more information. And while you're there, be sure to pick up the free course. It's a 40+ videos on how to maintenance and take care of your bike on a consistent basis. Things that I see wrong in the field that I think you can solve on your own. That being said, let's dive right back into this VT750 where we left off. I think the fuel valve was pretty disgusting, and we have some cleanup to do. And towards the middle of this video, I'm going to show you guys a really key moment of discovering what exactly it is we needed to do. And I think it can be applied to many applications, many different bikes, if you're having some type of symptom like we're having now. Let's get into it. Alright, so we gotta flush the tank. Right, so we got a clean bucket. We got a filter. Sweet. So as you guys can probably hear, we've discovered the part. Now the fun part is trying to fish it out of there. Found it. Woo, buddy. It's the whole thing. There's our metal stem. And the top of the filter. The body of it's turned into trash, what we're kind of collecting here in this bucket. So we'll do a couple more flushes. The only way to really solve that is to do a thorough derusting. You can do like something light like that. You could do a distilled vinegar. It's a very common problem. It's very common. See this all the time. No one thinks to replace that filter because it's an on-off valve, but really it's completely trash and clogging up your carburetors. Onward and upward. Just for reference purposes, this is a double plaid shirt, 100% cotton, 2 layers. Caught some stuff, but this is the material that can make it past it. That was a very clean bucket, so that's what can get into your carburetor. Okay, so for my next trick, we need to want to verify this pump. It is a factory pump. There's also a lot of sediment. I've cleaned the filters out. There's sediment in there. There's sediment in the fuel lines, and there's sediment in here. I already know there is. So I'm gonna test the volume output of this by just jumping the relay, black and blue with black wire, and I'm gonna run kerosene through this as well. So we're gonna measure the amount it's pumping out, as well as hopefully trying to clean it up a little bit with some kerosene, which you can use, just gotta flush it out good, and maybe get a volume reading on this as well. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. It's kind of hard to do this with one person, but we're gonna do it. So we're gonna jump this relay real quick, and we're gonna verify that we've jumped it real quick. If I had a key, we should hear the fuel pump prime like crazy. Like that. And we're gonna do this test for 5 seconds. So we're gonna let that thing pump. As soon as I see liquid leave it, I'm gonna count to 5. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have some sediment on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that in there. There is some in there, so we got some out. Our reading is about 5 fluid ounces. So we did that in 5 seconds, so then we take that and multiply by 12, and we should have a minimum of 30.4 US fluid ounces. So 5 times 12 is, I think, 60. So we are above the spec, which is great. I'm just gonna continue to flush this out with some more kerosene, probably do it 3 more times, and I'll do it about 3 or 4 times with just raw, clean fuel, just so we can get it all out of there. All right, so after a good bath, they are clean. But I had to put these back together again. Got a lot of parts to polish up. These right here. I did start to see a little bit of deterioration on the inside of these, but these can be very expensive, and I would say we can just keep pushing forward with them. You want everything to be nice, clean mirror finish. So I'm going to double check these jet sizes with some micro bits and a micrometer. Run a little small drill bit through it. This whole process that I'm going to do here is the exact same thing that I would do inside of the carburetor workshops that I have, like twin carb, exactly like this. I'm going to go through these and put them all back together again, clean them all up, polish them, resize it. I will likely raise this needle up, and I think I'm just going to do it with a shim. That way, if I do think we can try to go up one more stage on this needle, I have the room to do so. That's what we'll do. Let's put these things back together again. So looking even after drilling these things out, I had a 43. These are 42s. Factory is a 40 slow, and these things are beat. Like, I was able to resize it, but looking down, I wish I could show you guys an image. But if you get like a really nice flashlight, or any flashlight really, and something like this, like a jeweler's glass, this is a ×10. You can put this up on your eye and shine light up underneath it, and you can really look down inside of there, and it looks like, the best way I can describe it is if you were looking down like an old cast iron sewer pipe. It's just, the walls are all gross and corroded, and it's really hard to get something down inside of there. But because the stock is a 40, I'm going to, instead of putting these back in, I have some fresh 45s that I had in my junk pile. Same height. I don't know why, but when you order new jets from Honda, sometimes they're bringing you them in these different colored. It's almost like an aluminum jet. I don't know what this is, but they used to come like that in brass. Now they're coming in this shinier. I don't know if it's cheaper material or what. Less corrosive to ethanol, who knows? So we're going to go one stage up, 5 numbers, from a 40 to a 45. That should give us some more maneuverability on our mixture screw, and it might impact the mid-range circuit, which is where we're having the most issues. Another factor that I may be dealing with that can happen is I could be solving a slight clogging issue. We saw the dirt inside of these things. Who knows where it was at? We knew we found pockets of it behind the float seat, but if I took care of that clogging issue, which was causing it to backfire a little bit, be a little bit lean, plugs being white, I'm solving that issue by cleaning them. I'm buffering it with putting the 45 idles, brand new idles in there, which will make it a little bit richer on the idles and mid-range section. And then I'm going to shim these with a 0.7 millimeter shim. These are brass ones that I've had, so they're a little bit taller than the 0.4s. So now I'm bumping up this as well. So we're going rich all around, and this could be overkill, but we're just going to go at it with a little bit more intention and step up everything overall and see how that does. And the easiest thing to get to will be the slide pistons. So if I need to drop the shim off, that's fine. The idle jets, I don't want to go back in after, and I'm not going to. So I'm going to kind of work around those idle jets. Okay, so I've run into a problem that I have not faced before, but I can't get these washers with this stepped up all the way locked down. So we're kind of reached our max. So I'm going to just put these right back in how they were with the clip position where it is, 2 from the bottom, and we're going to just see how well the 45 idles affects the problem area. If it has the exact same problem, which I really hope it does not, then we will have to go in and think of an idea. Now, many of you may be wondering why I chose to not rejet at this point. I'm cleaning the carbs. In the process of diagnosing something, I really just want to make sure that I can cross things off my list. Too many people who I talk to have a problem and then shotgun everything that they possibly can at that issue until it's solved. We tend to get into this replace mindset where everything needs to be replaced. Replace the coils, replace the plugs, replace this, whether someone's telling us that or that's just what we think because we can't really make sense of what's going on. But instead of doing too much all at once, I like to take a step back and just do things that I know is wrong, solve that, and then go forward from there. Is it a waste of time and energy? Maybe, but we don't know. It's really easy to watch both of these videos and look back and say, well, why didn't you just start at the end? It's a great question, but that's not how it works. So let's look at the results. So as we can see, the problem's not gone. And this is where it tends to get a little bit more frustrating. But with all of the energy and work that we put into this thing, there's no time to give up, obviously. And in fact, there's another trick that we can apply while we're riding the bike to get an idea of if we're still on the same track. If we're still on the same track, then that's good news. So as you'll see in this video that I'm about to show you, I find the problematic area, the symptom that we've been trying to deal with. And as you can tell throughout these videos, you might have noticed that it's been changing slightly. Either it comes in sooner in some videos and sometimes it comes in much later in the higher RPM that we go. Sometimes it's not there at all and then sometimes it is. And that's what was starting to get a little bit more discouraging. But it's changing, which is a key element. So as you see here, I implement a trick that I do all of the time with carbureted bikes. I apply the choke as soon as the bad spot hits. And use the choke as a diagnostic tool while I'm in that section of crappiness with the RPM. And I do it many times because I want to be sure that this is what I'm discovering. And if you listen to the video, you'll hear me get into the rough spot, slowly apply the choke. Sometimes I do it full on, sometimes I do it halfway, but I keep the throttle where it's at. I don't change that. I just keep it where it's at to see if I notice any changes. Does it pick up and start to take off again? Does it get worse? Does it fall on its face? That key bit of information that I needed to do a couple of times to make sure is really the golden ticket that we're on the right track. Because that would mean that it's not a spark issue. Does nothing to do with the coils, has nothing to do with compression or ignition timing or valve train adjustments or anything like that. It's solely a fuel and air issue because when I act upon the problematic area, it gives me a result. third time's a charm. Let's pull those carbs back off. This is the reality. This is the reality of working on bikes that are modified. So we're gonna go up on the mains. I think we're at, I wrote it down, 130 on the rear, 126 on the front. Digging through all of my main jets, we're gonna go to a 136 front and a 142 rear. You guys agree? Great. One thing we also need to keep in mind is that I'm on paid time. I charge a certain rate per hour to work on people's bikes, and when it comes to a problem like this, you can't give anybody some type of estimate on what's going on. Maybe I could at the start, but not anymore. And the amount of time it takes to go in and out of this bike over and over and over again to slowly figure out where the jetting needs to be to solve this problem can get very expensive very quick. So there's another way that we can flip this on its head. Now when it comes to air and fuel mixtures at different RPMs, the reason why the air boxes are created for these bikes and designed, and they are as hideous as they are on many different makes and models, the key point that they provide is a restriction throughout all RPMs. This is why carb tuning for pod filter or velocity stacks or whatever else system you put on your bike that removes the air filter, the restriction is gone and it changes throughout your RPM, throughout your throttle input. It changes. Now we have this cone filter on this thing. And when it comes to an air and fuel mixture, you have the two parts. You have this much air to this much fuel. When we have a lean problem, we have this much fuel and too much air. Or not enough fuel and a constant amount of air, right? So it can go on both spectrums. If we have a rich mixture, we have too much fuel to that air. Or we have not enough air to that fuel ratio that's not changing. So if we zoom out, we have a lean situation. It's very apparent at this point. The carb's been rejetted up to a pretty good amount. Then it was rejetted again up to a substantial amount. And we still have the problem. So instead of going back into the carbs, charging this guy more money for maybe 2 more sessions of that, why don't we try to just not touch the fuel ratio anymore, but then cut back on the air side. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, at this point I am in no mood to record video, shoot content, explain what I'm doing. I'm done. Once I came back from that ride, my brain was frying and I had to come up with some type of solution to this because I'm now losing money completely to solve the original problem that I started to try to solve a few days ago, you know? So what I wish I would have done is I would have kept to the course and kept recording, but the only thing I was able to capture was what I had to make in order to cut back the air into this system. And I did it wrong the first time. I did it very wrong. I took that front pointy air filter off, and on the inside there was a pretty dramatic lip on the inside that something could be placed there and then put back onto the air filter. So I came up with cardboard, I started to put some holes in it, and then that moved to a thicker piece of plastic. I didn't run it with the cardboard, but I needed some type of model to base the finished product off of, and that's where it started. But I did try it with the heavier duty piece of plastic, like the plastic you would see on a 5-gallon oil jug. Mocked it up, made my holes, drilled them out with a little step drill, installed it, and went for a test ride. At first, it was fantastic. The problem was solved, and I was smiling the whole way home. Until it wasn't on the way home, where it went right back to how it was before. And that's because it sucked the plastic down into the intake and blocked all of the air coming in. Okay, so we need something a little bit more heavy duty. Did the exact same thing on this piece of metal. It fit beautifully, I was proud of it. It did take me a little bit of time to craft something like this, using a drill and grinding it down. So with a huge smile on my face, I installed it and went for a test ride. And boy did I change the air and fuel mixture on this thing. Symptom means that it is way too rich. So after about 2 tries, which I was pretty pumped about, I had stepped the holes in that little disc that I made up to about the size of a quarter. And I plugged that in, locked it down, and went for a test ride. And, well, it was perfect. Is it a cop-out way of making this bike run right? I don't think so at all. We're still achieving the performance of what this air filter is trying to allow, which is way more fuel because we jetted the thing 3 times over what they would ever be. And we modified the air coming into it to be somewhat regulated. It's still being filtered, it's still delivering what it needs to do to feed those jets, and the performance of the bike has increased by doing this type of modification. And that was it. I was super excited to be done with this bike. I was done working on it, and the customer was ecstatic because through the process of me working on bikes, I like to be in contact with them, and he was starting to lose hope as well. But he got a bike that runs exactly like it should. I would just suggest staying out of the rain if you ever ride that thing. But that's it. For those of you who said it was a direct air and fuel ratio problem, you are 100% correct. The way that we solved it was a little bit offhand, but fundamentally it's the same thing. We had to figure out what it needs or what it's not getting, and we did. Through trial and error processes, which is the fun part about working on motorcycles. But if you need help with your bike, maybe diagnosing a crazy problem, the best way I can help is through the Inner Circle membership. Be sure to check that out in the description below. We have an awesome community page as well as hundreds of videos that are not on YouTube to help you and guide you through whatever issue you may be facing. Looking forward to seeing you guys there. As always, Cody from Motorcycle MD, bringing you guys some quality tips and tricks for your next build or your daily rider. Be careful out there, guys. Later.